This episode of Matt's Jackson Balls is proudly brought to you by Hooded Life, your one-stop shop for all your bowling club needs, both on and off the green, in collaboration with Bowlswear Australia. Best service, best products, competitive prices. Go to www.hoodedlife.com.au and get hooded. G'day everybody and welcome to episode number 2 of Matt's Jackson Balls Live. Now this evening I've got a very good friend of mine who I met through bowls around the traps, different tournaments and things like that, and he basically became one of my coaching mentors from last year when I was coaching at Baronia. So without further ado, I would like to introduce David.
Hi, I'm Matt from Find a Game. Ever organised?
I'll get that in a minute. David Clarke. Where did you go? Hang on, mate. You've disappeared from your screen. Good work. We've started well again by the look of it. Yeah. And David Clarke's not coming up for some reason. Hang on a tick, folks. I will get there soon. Give me a second. Again, welcome to doing stuff live, and it's not working. All right, give us a tick, folks, and I'll start this all over again soon. This episode of Matt's Jackson Balls is proudly brought to you by Hooded Life, your one-stop shop for all your bowling club needs, both on and off the green, in collaboration with Bowlswear Australia. Best service, best products, competitive prices. Go to www.hoodedlife.com.au and get hooded. Welcome everyone, and this is take 2 of Match Jackson Balls Live. We've finally got David on the line. David Clarke, how are you this evening, mate?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Nothing that's worthwhile comes easy.
Mate, I don't know why, it just continually plays up. It played up last time, you have it all set and test, we're testing fine, and then what happens? You disappear the minute we go live.
That's okay. It'll all sort itself out, I'm sure.
No, that's good. Now, as I did in my first introduction, mate, we became friends through this, that and everything else at different bowls tournaments and things like that. And as I said, you basically became one of my mentors last year as a head coach, and I thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
No, you're a good bloke, so that's why I thought I'd have you on this episode. And look, we'll talk everything, club coaching, club culture, etc. We'll get stuck into that. Yep. But for a start, let's let everybody know what your history in bowls is from the start of when you started bowls all the way through to today. Don't go too much into the coaching, because we'll get into that. But so how did you start off in bowls, and where are you at these days?
Well, I was 42 years of age, and I sort of got to the stage where I was playing amateur football and chasing around a lot of bit young fellas. And I got to the stage where I thought, you know what, I don't have to do this. I'm getting a little bit too old to chase these young guys around. So I thought it's about time I started something else. Now, back in those days, I had this little show on Channel 2 called Jack High. I watched that on Sundays, maybe for about 4 or 5 years, and sort of thought this looks like a pretty interesting sort of a game. It was a bit like a game of marbles on a green, you know. So I decided I'd go out and give it a try. Went out shopping with the missus one day. She come back with a flyer from Burden Park, and from there I went down to Burden Park, and you know, instead of being the frustrated old guy on the footy field, I become the young guy, and I couldn't work that out. I was 42 years of age and walk into a bowling club, and all of a sudden it's you young blokes, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a complete turnaround. You know? So that was my start at bowls. So I played at Burden Park for a reasonable amount of time. Decided that I thought that at that stage, like all new bowlers do, I thought that I could pursue myself outside of Burden Park and perhaps be given a better go. So I looked around and tried a few other clubs, and had a bowl in quite a few sides that managed to go from first division to first division, and that became part of my forte, where I sort of liked to go to sides that were in second division and help them achieve getting up to first division. So I sort of really enjoyed that side of things. I've been bowling for about 22 years now, and just on the coaching side of things, I was fortunate enough to go back at the club I started at last year to Burden Park as a club coach. So that was a really nice thing for me. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed going back to where grassroots, to where it all began, and to start off there. So yeah, that's part of my start, you know.
How'd you go at Burden Park last year, playing wise?
Playing wise, I probably had one of the average years that I've had this year since I've been bowling. I didn't play too well, but as far as achievements were concerned, we got all 3 sides in finals. I think that would have been the first time, all 3 Saturday sides, for the first time in the club's, you know, history of 10 years or so. And we've got a couple of the Tuesday sides in finals too. Worked really hard on, like you were talking about before, club culture, and that you said you'd go into coaching shortly, so we will after that. So I enjoyed the year, but I didn't bowl quite as well as I think I could have, and that was probably just due to a lot of stuff going on as club coach, and you know, a little bit of politics and things like that going on within the club while I was coaching. So sometimes that can affect your bowls. And unfortunately for my side of things, it affected my bowls, but the results were fantastic. I couldn't have been any happier with the results. I think when I met you down at Baronia on one of your tournaments down there, we sat down and had a few drinks after the game and sat down and had a chat, and we were talking about all the different things of the clubs being invested in on their coaches, trusting them and working towards the same goals together. Unfortunately, for me last year, there was a slight difference between what I had in mind and what the club had in mind, and sometimes that can create a little bit of an issue when you're coaching. But at the end of the day, there's no sour grapes from my side of things. I'm completely happy with the fact that we had the angle that Burden Park have taken them where they're heading. I'm happy. I think I've left them in good shape. And from there they'll move on, and I'll move on, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, look, it happens, as you know. I've now moved on from Baronia, but mate, if you're not playing well, I know a decent coach if you want a bit of a lesson.
And I'll be pretty right again now. I think that's a thing with some of the stuff with coaching. I think that the psychological side of things is really important. And if your head's not in the right place, it doesn't matter what sort of a bowler you are, you're not going to bowl good bowls.
No.
So your head's got to be in the right place, and it's got to be able to focus on what you're doing. If you've got too much distractions and you've got too many things going on in your own headspace, it makes it very difficult to, do a simple thing like put down a lawn bowl and focus and concentrate on what you're doing.
Yep. No, very true. All right. Well, we'll get into it. Like I've sort of said in a lot of my posts, we're going to talk tonight, club coaching in general, and then sort of look at club culture, because club culture is another big thing, as I found out last year, and as you've probably found out a number of times. It's a huge thing, and for some reason, and I don't know, being my first year of coaching, but you can get into it. It seems like the whole club culture is based around sort of, the coach coming in, because I know it's happened at a few clubs now, is club culture can sometimes or a lot of times be built by the coach themselves, because they're coming in with a lot more experience than people that have been at the one club or been at a couple of clubs for a very long time. So first question I've got for you, and this is anybody that's watching, all these questions are completely off the cuff. David's had no training as to what I'm going to say. He doesn't know any questions. It's David's no Joe Biden. He doesn't need to be fed any questions. Last time I'll speak about American politics for the night. So just in summary and just quickly, what do you see the job of a club coach being? And again, don't go into details because we'll go into it. But just a summary of what you personally see as the role of a club coach.
Okay, I'll take that from the start. So the club itself and the coach have to be on the same railway track, and also the players. So it's an investment as a club to be on the same path, and it's also an investment as a coach to be on the same path. So you set out your goals as to what you want to achieve, and they have to be achievable goals, and you work towards them. So that's as a club, as a coach, and as a team. Now the culture should be such that each player is willing to play their part within the side and within the team, within the individual rinks, in order to get the greater outcome. So it's sort of like a situation where you have to have forward planning. If you go into the situation and you haven't got forward planning and not everybody's on the same boat, then you're destined to fail. So you have to have a situation where everybody is equally as invested in the club, and basically the coach is there to steer the ship, to get you to the situations that you want to be in at each particular point of time. So you can look at wins and losses and things like that. Factor in, you can, a time when I was at Caulfield Park, we went out there and we played bowls, and we played for, at the start of the year, the club had turned around and told us that we have to win 70% of our games. So we were looking at going up to Division 1. So what happened is we went out there and we lost the game. The game we lost happened to be game 8. So I've said to the team and the club that I think that 70% is not enough. So we should be looking at winning 1 out of 9. So we lose game 8. So I took the side in, had a yak to them, and said, we factored in a loss. All we've got to do is go out there today and win. And then our loss has already been factored in. So we've set a plan forward. We went out that day, played Melbourne, and beat them. They were on top of the ladder. We went to top of the ladder. We'd lost our 1 game out of 9 games. That's working to a plan.
Yep.
That's the sort of thing that I think that you need to do. There, when you talk about coaching, there's a few different ways of coaching. I went to a bowls boot camp going back years ago with Cameron Curtis, and I've got a few notes, so I'll just go through a couple of notes. And
mate, Clarke, this is meant to be a summary, mate. Come on.
That's okay. Yeah. So I go to a bowls boot camp with Cameron Curtis and Mark Jacobson. Okay, two pretty knowledgeable people. So I was speaking to Cam because I'm a bit of a talker, like you've just gathered. Yep. And I was speaking to Cam, and I'm like, can you break down where you go, what you do, how you go about it, the process of it, etc., etc. So Cam could break down from the moment he picked that ball up and went through his preset routine to when he got on the mat, went through all the whole situation, and from the moment he delivered that bowl. He could break down every individual thought and explain it to you. Then you get the opposite. You get Mark Jacobson. How do you go about your bowls, Mark? I just get on the mat and do it. So this is the key point that I'm making here. Coaching works like this. Not every person is the same. You have your Cameron Curtis, who can break down right from the very start, stretch it throughout to the moment he delivers a bowl, and that's where Cameron Curtis is at. Then you have Mark Jacobson. How do you go about it, Mark? I just get on the mat and do it. So you have two completely different people and thought processes as to how they go about doing it. So everybody falls within that scale. So our job as coaches is to work out what works for each individual person within that scale, in order to coach them and make them a coachable person, and to get the best out of them that we can get out of that particular player.
Yep. Well, that's it there. Yeah, I understand that. I get that.
Yeah.
So we'll go into details.
Yep.
Now, one of the hard things, and I think especially with a lot of clubs that haven't had a coach before, or they've had one 15, 20 years ago, and it's something I found last year, is coaching of players.
Cheers, guys.
As we don't condone that kind of thing, Clarkey. Come on.
Thank you. I'll drink it out of a coffee cup if you like.
No, mate, no, it's fine. If anyone's watched my show, I don't mind people having a drink on my show. I don't mind having one normally, but I'm behaving myself lately.
All good.
Coaching of players as a club coach, individual players. Now, there seems to be a stigma, more so with the, I shouldn't say more mature crowd, but people that have had experience bowling for 10 plus years. There seems to be a stigma that, here comes Coach Clarke. What's he going to teach me? I don't have to learn off him. I've been playing for 10 years. What am I going to learn from this club coach? I don't need to be taught how to coach. I don't need to be taught how to bowl. I've been doing it for years. And that seems to be a major stigma and especially, like I said, clubs that haven't had coaches before, or clubs that very rarely bring coaches in. What do you think about that? And how do we go about, as coaches, changing that ideal?
Okay, it's an interesting thing that you brought up there, because when I went to Burden Park and last year, I was taken in there and they hadn't had a paid club coach at all. They actually did. Sorry, I'll stand corrected on that, because they did when they were in Premier League quite a long time ago. But they hadn't had one for quite a long time. And I've just removed this so I can hear myself, because I find it easier to talk if I can hear myself rather than the headphones on.
You're right, mate.
So go into Burden Park, and you're up against it when you're going into a new club, and you've got players with the mindset of, what can I learn from this coach? Basically, I already know enough. I don't need to comply to the team training. I don't need to practice these drills. I don't need to do this. You've got to find a way to get these people on side. That's your job as a coach. Your job is to get these people on side and to get as much as you can. There's particular times where people don't want to comply. You have to give them jobs. You have to try and involve them by a classic example. I had one guy who didn't like at a particular time of me being side captain. So what I'd done is we went out to our first game at a venue, and I said, "You've bowled at this venue before, haven't you?" And he goes, yeah, I've bowled here plenty of times. I go, "Well, I'll tell you what, would you mind doing the speech before the game and let people know how the green speed goes?"
Yep.
So I challenged him to involve himself. So he involved himself. Out of involving himself, I managed to draw some respect from that player. So therefore, I got a bit of respect from him. So I got him on side. Now, when you talk about how do you get respect from the bowlers and that when you come in new as a club coach, I do a lot of whiteboard coaching. So I don't just do on green stuff.
Yep.
I do a lot of mindset stuff and a lot of psychological whiteboard coaching. So I've done a presentation, a meet the coach night. And if you ask me, a meet the coach night is a must when you start as a new coach at a club.
Yep.
You have to go there, introduce yourself, explain what your plan is, explain how you want people to abide by the plan, and how it's all about the benefit of the team and not the individual. So anyway, to get back to Burden Park, I'd done some whiteboard stuff, and I started to introduce different ideas and concepts and different percentage-based concepts as to how we can get advantages on our opponents. And I started to talk about the keyhole and the scoring zone and how we should be aiming at getting our bowls behind the scoring zone and that sort of thing. So I started to introduce that sort of thought process to the club. I had somebody who'd been bowling for 20 years turn around and say, "I never thought in my life that I could learn anything on about bowling and how to get an advantage on my opponent on a whiteboard."
Yep.
That guy bowled for 20 years, and for me, and it was Laurie Caulfield to say who it was.
Yeah.
I was absolutely flattered and absolutely rapt that Laurie could sort of say that, and to say that, look, he's actually learnt something from what I've presented to him on a whiteboard.
Yep.
So look, you can if you think outside of the square and you're willing to do what you can to try and involve people, you can get them involved. You've just got to look at a way that you can work these people into the side rather than having them resent you and force them to do things. And that's what my thoughts are.
Yep.
Don't hold a gun to people's head and try and force them to do things, because they'll just resent you. So you have to find a way to get them involved and a way to get them moving to and working on the same common cause.
Yep. No, that's good, mate. Good to hear again. It's nice to hear. And even now, I'm learning things. You and I have had plenty of chats, but again,
yeah,
it's good to learn things, because I know there's a few new coaches running around that I've heard, different appointments and different things. Because again, it's difficult even as a player to transition into coaching. As a player, you sort of sit back, cruise through the weeks, this, that, and everything else. And as you know, as a coach, you got to plan, you got to think about things. You've got to, be around the club a hell of a lot more than what you normally would be. So again, even with you talking, I'm learning as I go. Just a quick one, just for our sponsors. So for all your clubs, sportswear, workwear, branding, clothing, and merchandise, Hooded Life has the highest quality clothing and experience and expertise. Hooded Life can design your club's bowls wear, all the while being a Bowls Australia branded. They are my clothing sponsor, as you can see, of Match Jackson Balls. So if you're interested in getting your club involved, go to hoodedlife.com.au and see what Toddy Simmons can do for your business and or your club. Next topic I've got for you, mate, training for individuals and some of the biggest downfalls, and I'll start this one off. Training for individuals. One of the main things I found, or I find, is that again, There's a lot of individuals in a bowls club that think they can turn up on a Saturday and just bowl the house down. Or you get a lot of people that bowl, for example, I do as well, because I enjoy it. But a lot of people bowl on a Saturday and a Tuesday. And they say, well, I bowl Tuesday, so that's my practice. The other thing I found, and again, I asked for comment on this, and it's one thing I tried to, instill in players last year, was the amount of times I'd turn up and people would just bowl jack to jack, jack to jack, jack to jack, jack to jack. And they'd have a jack up one end, they have a jack up the other end, and nothing much had changed, and they'd just be bowling like that. And one thing I tried to instill in people is, if you're bowling by yourself, train with purpose, train to how you play. So leads, roll the jack, roll 2 jacks, roll 3 jacks, and belt your bowls out to that. Bowl with some kind of purpose. And I know, you sent me a sheet on training. So again, one of the top things you say is training with a purpose. So can you get into 100%. That for us a bit more?
Yep, definitely. Okay, so there's a difference between going and having a roll up with your mates and going there to the club. And the first thing, hang on, I'll rewind a bit. I'll go back on what you talked about Tuesday bowls and every other sort of bowl. So I've bowled and I've trained enough, so I don't have to turn up Thursday night. What about the team that you're there? And I'm not saying you, for example. I'm saying the whole bowls culture on a Thursday night now, and it has been for quite a long time. There doesn't seem to be as many people turning up, because I bowl Tuesday, I bowl Wednesday, I bowl whenever. So why should I turn up for practice Thursday? What about your team building? What about the part of the team that you're playing as an individual in order to get the team happening? You can't have organised team training properly if you haven't got the right amount of people there and playing in their correct positions, etc., etc. So now, to get back from that to your training, there's a difference between having a roll-up and training. The difference between having a roll-up and training is phenomenal. If you're having a roll-up, you're just going and jumping on the mat and you're bowling bowls and you're practicing with your mates, and you're not really going about achieving anything except for what you would have achieved on your Tuesday and your Wednesday bowls.
Well, that's not really... I'll intersect there, because you even said there, I'm just having a practice with me mates. I don't even call... I personally don't even call that training. I call that turning up.
No, that's not training. That's right.
Turning up and having a bowl.
Yep. But that's what happens on Thursday nights at a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
So my definition is this: that if you're going to go and have a practice now, you set different things for different times of the year. Okay. So and you'll find some of my answers will be quite long-winded because that's the way that I methodically think about things. Okay. Yep. So you'll have different training for different times of the year and different purpose-built training. So, for example, you start your year off and you get all your members there and you start training. You do your particular drills. You might have people who bowl narrow, so their drill might be to go around the outside of the green. And I'll try and get my finger up to the screen. I can't see my own finger here. Because I'm not near the camera. I'm back enough now. Yeah. Okay, so your outside training, they might be going around this way and going towards the ditch with the jack 18 inches in from the ditch, so that they don't drop into the ditch to stop them from bowling narrow. Yep. So they might go right around the outside of the green, performing just that one exercise, because they know that they bowl narrow, so they can't drop into the ditch. So the object is to stay on the ditch and draw to the jack. So they don't drop into the ditch, so it stops them from bowling narrow a bit. You may have other people who bowl, other particular ways. So this is the start of your year training. The start of your year training is when you start to look for your faults within bowlers, etc., that you try and fix them. You try and develop something that a lot of bowlers out there don't even know exists, which is called a preset routine. So you start something that starts from behind the mat, from the moment you pick your bowl up and address the mat, and go onto the mat and start your preset routine and go through that and deliver your bowl. Those are the things you start at the start of the year. Once you start to move into your pennant season and that sort of thing, you might want to start with bowling 4 bowls up one side of the green, coming back the same side of the green with the same 4 bowls, and then 4 bowls going up the other side of the green and coming back with the other side of the green before you start your training. then you know what line the grass has taken. So you've got half a chance of going out there and starting your training when you know what the grass is, rather than just jumping on and rolling your things. I actually had Bird Park towards the end of last year training for pre-finals to get to finals. So the way I had them training last year was I had them training to bowl without a jack, two ends, just repeating the bowl, two ends back, repeating the bowl without a jack there, and then to bowl those four ends, one side of the green up and back, four bowls, one side of the green up and back, four bowls, so that they therefore went on to their training after having done that.
Yep.
Right. So they've done that exercise and then they've got on to their training. When you talk about different things that happen at clubs, another classic example, long ends. They just jumped onto the green and bowled long ends. I sat back and watched the first few weeks of people just bowling ditch to ditch and ditch to ditch. I go, what are you going to do when somebody plays a short end?
Yep.
And they go, what do you mean? I go, you have to practice short ends. You've got to practice. You've got to practice short. You've got to practice long. You have to practice for a purpose. So a lot of coaches will say, practice your weaknesses. Barry Lester's a brilliant one for everything you do. Document it. Document it. Do it again. Document it.
Yep.
Right. So that way you can see exactly where you are and where you're improving and what you're achieving. So training is not just about turning up and just jumping on. Oh, g'day, Charlie. How you going? G'day, Fred. How you going? I'll just pull my bowls out.
Off
and
we go.
You on the green, and we'll just let's go. All right. Oh, beautiful. Let's go in and have a beer. We haven't really achieved anything. So training with a purpose is paramount, and that is what it's all about. If you're not going to train with a purpose and you haven't got a purpose behind your training, you're just rolling up.
Yep.
So you're not training. You're rolling up.
Yep. I completely agree. And
yeah.
It's probably one thing that changed last year a little bit with where I was at Baronia. And I think the current coach who's there now, Mark Houston, he played at Brighton a couple of years back in the Divi 1 side, but he sort of taught me from the get-go, no, play, even if you turn up with a mate, play competitively. Like, have your roll up, have this, have a bit of a muck around, and then go, right, you and me, first to 11.
Yep.
And then you do, do that. And I know, for example, Mark used to absolutely belt me, absolutely kicked my backside. But it made me get better and better and better and better. And then it was getting to the point 100%. Last year that, I was beating him 11-7, 11-6. And then even the young fella that we had there, even from the get-go, I would say to him, righto, you and I, first to 11. And he's like, oh, yeah, right. Oh. When he first started out, he's only been bowling 2 years. So when he first started out, I'd towel him, absolutely towel him. But I'd go, mate, just learn, watch what I do, watch the different shots I play. And then last year, he just came back and he was, every time he saw me, come up, first to 11, let's go. And I think once or twice he gave me a touch-up. But again,
that's what it's about.
That's what it's about. Make even practice, make it competitive. Try different things. There's no use, in sitting there and practicing your draw all day when you're coming up to a singles tournament, and all of a sudden you've got to play through with a metre or two. You've got to drive at drive at something. Because even if you practice for Saturdays, and I think that's the other thing is a lot of people don't realise, you practice for Saturdays, so all you're doing is draw bowling. You come up in a singles game or a pairs game, and especially a 2-2, 2-2 pairs game. So even if you lead, all of a sudden you've got to play third. If you've only got a draw up your sleeve, you're going to be found out pretty quick.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. See, because I always like the idea of the sides coming out early, right? So when the sides come out early, you can practice for your position.
Yes.
And what you just said then about playing lead, second, third, or skipping, you practice differently according to those positions. So if you're leading, you'll practice your roll in the jack, you'll practice drawing. And in particular, my train of thought is a lot of people have got different views on different things. I think a lead should play one side of the green up and back. So if there's a change in the conditions, he can adjust once. He only has to adjust once. He doesn't have to adjust if he's going, forehand all the way or backhand all the way. He doesn't have to adjust on both sides. You only got to adjust once. The only time that he needs to change anything is if he's getting a flogging, and then he just changes over to the opposition's hands to get in their way.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a lead. So if you're bowling as a 2, there's not a lot of difference. You're mainly drawing. You may have to play a yard on, but depending upon what level of bowls you're playing, of course, you go Premier these days, and they might even drive from lead anyway. So Alan, I'll go again. Aaron, might jump on the mat and just go bang in the ditch.
Yeah.
So you should practice for your position. That's an important thing as well. That's also important. Practice the position that you're actually playing. With your singles, when you're talking about singles and you're saying, to me, my train of thought is that singles is a dominantly drawing game.
Yeah.
If you start to niggle at the head or play with a little bit of weight, sometimes you'll lose your draw, and that'll allow your opposition to get in. And I reckon that singles, personally, I think singles is dominantly draw. Occasionally, if you've got a drive or something, you've got to do it. But at the end of the day, if you start to play niggling shots, you start to lose that draw. So if you're drawing predominantly, 90% of your game, that's to my thoughts on how you go all right in singles. And mind you, I haven't went much good in singles because I don't enter very much anyway.
Yeah. Well, unless I'll put a caveat to that, unless your name's Zach Woning or Benny Simmons from Yarra Glen, because I actually just saying that, and Johnny Rich is watching. Johnny Rich is watching, so he'll know what I'm talking about. That those two played in a singles game, and I think in the first 10 ends they killed 5 of them.
Yep.
Both of them just driving the absolute house down. They didn't want to get within an inch, or otherwise it was going out. So I get what you're saying about.
There are exceptions. There's always exceptions.
Those two were just having it was strange because I think it was. Yeah. And Johnny Rich can tell me different. I think it was the quarterfinals of the regional singles. And they were just going hammer and tong. And it's like, And the guys, but all, the older crowd were going, what are they doing? This is a draw game. What's this driving stuff? And it's like, oh my God.
Predominantly,
but it was probably the most fun game I've ever seen live. It was just... Absolutely.
That's the thing. There's exceptions. There's exceptions to the rules, and when you're talking about that, when you're talking about exceptions to the rules, just to go off track a little bit, there's also exceptions to the rules as to what you set up as your team play and what you might set up as your rink play in pennant. There's exceptions to the rules. You can't have a rule that says you can only do this because otherwise you will fail. There's times when you have to have a flexible game plan. And you have to be able to change, within the game. Because if you can't do that, then you're just stuck in one dimension. You have to be 3-dimensional. So, you have to be in a position where if that game's unfolding like that, then you have to adjust accordingly to the game. So the game sets a pace. We set the plans, but whether or not that plan's going to be in action or taken out of action, that can also can be challenged during the day and changed during the day and during each game, So it's okay to have a game plan. This is another thing, isn't it? You talk about game plans and clubs having game plans, but you have to be able to have a flexible game plan that you can change and accept to change while you're there. The old story of I was playing Charlie on rink 3 or Fred on rink 3. We're having a great game, and and they got the mat. I got it back. They had already thrown long ends, but I thought I'd get them back this time, and I threw a long end, and I got beat. And then all of a sudden, it's like, why did you get beat? Well, you got beat because you didn't change anything, because you didn't go to a short length, or you didn't go to a 3/4 length, or you didn't take the mat up, or whatever may be the case. In other words, you just kept doing the same thing that you were losing on.
Yep.
So if you get beat like that, you deserve to lose.
Yep.
You've got to be open-minded enough to want to accept change. So, as you were saying before, like in my eyes, it's predominantly a draw game. But in that sort of game where everything's changed and the game's doesn't no longer become a draw game, it becomes a completely different concept.
Yeah.
Because if you continue to play the one the one dimension, you're probably going to lose.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So it's got to be flexible. Yeah.
Next one I've got for you. And again, this is a contentious one, especially amongst the older establishment. All this, hoopla at the start of the game and, getting around, getting everyone around in the circle and rah, rah, rah and hoopla. I've got two trains of thought on it. I like it sometimes and other times I don't. And don't ask me why. If it becomes a thing you do at the start of the year, we'll stay with it. If it's a thing you don't do, and you don't, I'm a big one on this, you don't have to. Again, you can, any good team worth their salt is going to be turning up at 11:30 in the morning, 11:45. You're going to be practicing on the green nice and early. You've got plenty of time to chat. You've got plenty of time to talk whatever you want to. Why do you have to all get around each other at, 1:15 and go hoopla, yeah, let's let's go. Mate, I was fired up at 11. I get fired up at 11:30, 11:45.
Okay, so yeah, I'll agree with one part and disagree with the other. So when you talk about club culture,
which we'll get on to,
and you talk about club culture and team building, it's all about team. Okay, so game plans, team talks, all that sort of stuff, critical in my eyes. I think that as a unit, and I had an issue with a couple of people that didn't want to join into the talks and that before the game last year. So I challenged that, and instead of a situation where we met out on the green when we played at home, the way that I confronted that was I said, we're now going to meet in the office. So at Burton Park, they had a little office there for the club members
to
go in and have a drink. So what I'd done is I told everybody we all have to go in here before the game. So I'd done a very quick whiteboard meeting onto what we need to bring, how we need to go about everything and that sort of stuff. And then we went out onto the green, and we didn't need to have a team meeting on the green then because we just had one. And done it there. I think personally that team meetings on the green are very, very important. I think clubs have got two choices. I think they've got a choice to move up with the times, and to be orientated that way throughout the whole club. I don't just mean that with the one side. I mean this throughout the whole club. So throughout all sides. Or otherwise, if they can't move up with the times, they're going to drift off into the past. And what I mean by that is eventually over years, you'll find clubs merging and that sort of thing, some folding, because this is all going to happen over the next 10 years without doubt. The ones that don't move with the times will probably move into the past. So all sports that you see, you'll always have that little gathering at the start of the game, and everybody will get together and have a bit of a yak and some don't necessarily participate in it while they're there, but their presence is the fact that they're there, and that's enough, So my way of thinking is it's a very important thing for team building, the same as a little meeting just after the break. If you have a break, some clubs don't have a break, some do, but if you do have a break, just that little quick fresh up and to remind everybody as to what our job is, where we're at, what we need to do from here. In order to give ourselves the best opportunity to win. To me, I think it's a critical part of a game plan, because when you have a club that's on the cusp of getting somewhere and on the verge of breaking out of the division they're in into the next division, there's always a bit of a click, and there's always that spark, and that spark is created by team. That spark's created by everything that happens within that team, and the way to do that, I think, is to have those team meetings, and then that's okay if you think and others think otherwise,
No, just it's again, I just wanted to get another opinion, because when I was saying that, hey, we didn't get around, didn't jump in a circle and hoorah, you
No,
know,
that's okay. That's what makes
before the
world go
game,
round.
we'd be talking it through and we'd be, listen. And the funny thing was, and this happened a couple of years back when we won our Divisional 3 flag, what had happened is other teams had, and it's just me being smart ass, which is nothing unusual for me, Clarke, as you know. Other teams would get into their circle and, hoorah, hoorah. And I used to walk up the circle and just stand outside it listening to them. And then I'd turn around, go back to our blokes and go, they reckon they're going to absolutely piss this in today. And all our blokes go, yeah, righto, that's good to hear. So I actually started doing that. I started doing that for the whole year. And so the boys would be standing off to the side. Here I am being a smart ass just standing outside the people's circle just going, I'm listening, you idiots. And they'd say, come on, let's go out. We can beat them today. We've got them. Yeah. They're no chance on our home ground. Go back and just say to the boys, we're no chance apparently, guys. And you just see their faces going, you're gone. Yep.
While you're on that, I'll just reflect on something. Johnny Rich is watching Still I Hope. Going back a few years ago with Berwick, we're playing away. We'd won 1 out of our last 7 games to scrape into the finals by 1 solitary point. And we're playing the home team at home on their synthetic, and I won't name who they were.
No, I don't name names. We're not into that.
We're playing them at home on their synthetic, and they're all standing around in a circle, all laughing and carrying on. And I said to the guys, I go, have a look over there, guys. And they go, yeah. And I go, I reckon they've already got it won. I go, all we've got to do is present a game and present a game out here and be near them at halftime, at the break, and then present a game to them, and they will panic and we'll win.
Yeah.
And we went out and beat them, and then played Upwey Tacoma in the final. And, no disrespect to Upwey Tacoma.
Oh, I wouldn't, mate. They're good mates of mine.
They're great blokes, yeah. And we played them at your old club last year and won our way up through to Division 1.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. If somebody's super cocky and carrying on like that, well, sometimes that can be a disadvantage to them too. So now, you can't sort of eat your cake before you've unwrapped it or cooked it.
Now, Andy McDonald's just written in from Facebook, and this is actually a really good point. And Andy, I'll take this on board definitely. Sometimes in a meeting, you're welcoming a new member or somebody that's been promoted up, and that's actually a really good point. Is to even if all you're doing is getting around as a group. Andy, I love that point, to be honest. Welcoming somebody really for their first game. And again, as you said, don't do it just in the top side. Do it all the way through. All sides.
Make it as part of the culture. A very good thing, this is pre-COVID, obviously. When I was at Mulgrave and Barry Lester was coaching Mulgrave, I think I went over there the second year he was coaching.
Yeah.
And Barry had a fantastic thing going with team culture. And look, sometimes you've got to realise this in clubs too, okay? It's about all sides. I agree 100%. I'm invested in the fact that everything is about all sides in the club. It's not just about the top side. But Barry had a special thing that he used to do with the top side of the club. Every time you've seen each other at that club, every time you walked up and seen each other, you put your hand out and you shake your mate's hand and said g'day.
Yep.
Now, that was to create a culture for that particular side. So I'm not saying that there was any disrespect to the other sides. That's fine too. Yep. But a club's judged by where its top side is at. And that's where it's judged by any sporting club. At bowls, football, it doesn't matter what sporting club it is, that's where it's judged by. So don't take this the wrong way. I'm not about all it being about the top side, because that's certainly not where I'm at. But what I'm saying is that created a fantastic culture within that particular side, whereas everybody felt like they were really good mates and they were really scorched and they really worked hard for each other. Yeah. Now, the same thing can be created within each individual side. But for that particular thing, I think it really created a fantastic culture for that side. Yeah. That culture can be spread through the club, and that was pre-COVID. So, it's a bit harder nowadays, to turn around and have the handshake every time you see someone, but that particular point, to do that to me was something that I really sort of thought was a pretty smart move,
Well, it's funny. Funny you say that because last year I made it something I wanted to do all year. I started at round one. Don't ask me why I did it, but I just started it. Generally, if we were playing at home, we would always have a second team playing. It just happened to work out that way.
That's good.
I would make it my mission for the year. Hey, first up was I'd go around, shake everyone's hand from our team. Because again, we weren't big on the big hoorah stuff, so that's fine.
Yep.
So I didn't push it. Yeah. But I literally would walk up to everybody on our team, have a good one, everyone have an excellent game. And then I'd actually run on to the second green and go through the other side. Third side, second side, didn't matter. And I'd shake all their hands. And, I'd be walking up. People would be like, what are you doing? Have a good game, everyone. Good game. Good. And they're like, what the? Nobody's ever done this before. And it was just...
Yeah, but
it was just
as
me saying...
Coach, as club coach, that's a fantastic thing for you to do.
Yeah.
Because you've automatically taken away the alienation, because a lot of times, unfortunately, what happens is because sides are judged by their top side, and normally the coach plays in the top side, all of a sudden the second side and the third side think that the coach doesn't want anything to do with those sides.
No.
And from you doing that, you've taken away that alienation where they think that it's all about the top side. You removed that, and you've involved the whole club by doing that.
Yeah.
Like that for me is a fantastic thing. That's what it's all about. Because there's too many times, and it's too easy for it to be criticised or looked upon that is all your club's interested in, your coach is interested in. And it's not the case. The coach doesn't go down there with the intentions of just worrying about, or most don't, just worrying about the top side. They worry about the whole club. They worry about the second side, the third side, and how they're going. Our third side this year at Burden Park rallied home, absolutely flew home, made it to the finals by 1 point. And I can tell you right now, there was nobody more excited at that club, and some of them may dispute that I was. I was absolutely over the moon for that side to make it to the finals. Mathematically, it didn't look possible, and they burst from the clouds and made it home. And that was one of the proudest things for me to see them do that.
All right. Well, we'll go to a quick ad break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that thing called club culture.
Beautiful.
All right.
Okay.
We'll be back in a minute, guys.
Hi, I'm Matt from Find a Game. Ever organised a tournament and you get this scenario?
Hi, this is Dave. I was wanting to enter your tournament on the 25th of September. Please call me back.
Yeah, hi Dave. This is Todd. Please call me back so I can get your details for our tournament on the 25th of September.
That back and forth happens time and time again while taking entries. While you're doing all of that, you're plugging names and details into spreadsheets. You then have to hope they turn up on the day, and when they do, you have to organise all of the entry money. How many hours total do you spend doing all of that? Find a Game is the solution to all of those worries. The only thing you need to do is enter the tournament details and how much each entry is. With our revolutionary website, players can search for and find your tournament, enter their details and pay up front. You receive emails for each entry and can manage all the entries online. You can even send an email out to all participants. Just before the tournament starts, you will receive all of the entry money straight into your bank account. It couldn't be any easier. Contact us today and we can send you all the information you require to start saving many hours organising tournaments. Oh, we can also list all of your social bowls events as well. Find a Game, the new revolution in lawn bowls events.
Righto, we're back. It's nice to have a quick break, wasn't it?
Certainly was.
Now, I've got a few questions for you, but we'll leave that until the end because I just wanted to get on club culture. We've been going for nearly an hour, so we're probably boring our viewers a little bit.
It's just my long-winded answers, I think.
No,
mate.
that's
Sorry.
all right. I think we went an hour 20 with Canters and Lucas, because Lucas is never short of a word either. The smiling assassin.
Lovely guy.
Oh, yes, everyone loves Lucas. Now, club culture, mate. That's a big one, and it's one.
Okay.
It's one last year that, and it can go two ways. Club culture. You can try and change the culture, and the culture can then slap you in the face and say we're not interested. Or it can, it can do again. Another thing it can do is go, look, we're not ready for it just yet, but you've planted that seed. Or it's an all-encompassing, let's go berserk and go forward with it. So your thoughts on club culture, and we'll have a chat on that for 10 minutes.
Not a problem. Okay, so it's sort of something where you look at two different aspects. Okay, I'll go the other way. Sorry. So first is, are you rebuilding a club, right, or are you changing the culture of a pre-existing club? So if I'm saying if you're rebuilding a club, you're bringing new players into the club. If you're changing the culture and you're going as a coach to an existing club, probably a little bit of a different aspect. Okay, so let's tackle the existing club and changing the culture of the existing club.
Yeah,
so
right.
You're basically looking at bringing people up to the times, and you're getting everyone to work for the one common cause. You're taking away the competitiveness within each. I'll just move this back again because I can't hear myself talk. I don't seem to talk properly. So you're taking away the fact that we're all competing within the club, but we're all doing it for the one common cause. Okay, so it's about being selfless and about putting the club and the outcome of the club before yourself. Yep. So that's your normal situation. The second situation is if you're doing a rebuild. So then you're going to have a few people come in, you're going to have a few people upset because you're missing out on their regular spots and that sort of thing. So then you're working on that. So, to create your club culture, one thing happens. First of all, you've got to get everybody on board, whether it be the actual club on board with the plan, the coach on board with the plan, the players on board with the plan, and you get everybody to commit to that. Yep. Then when you look at a simple thing, which is not so simple, which is called selection, that's where club culture can be ruined. Okay. Yep. Yep. So unless you have an explainable situation in each move you make in selection that can be explained logically down throughout, each move, right, then that move shouldn't be made. So if you're going to create a culture to a club, it has to be open, transparent, and honest. And this is the main thing. If you're not going to be honest with things, and you're not going to create an honest situation where you can pass that explanation as to why player A was moved out of the side or player B was moved in, or whatever the situation, that can be explained right down throughout each player and throughout the club, so that you can all work together, then you're never going to get a culture. You're never going to get an acceptance within the club where people can accept what's happening. But if you can be open and honest and transparent about everything, you can build a good culture within the club where everybody is willing to work for that one common goal.
But if you
can't get everyone working for that one common goal, you're going to have your little outsiders that are going to white hand everything. But you've got to try and find a way that you can involve them in on things or give them a job. Like I had a chap last year who alienated himself from a particular side and didn't want to play in a particular side. So I challenged him by giving him a job. Once I gave him a job, he got involved and invested in on what he was doing, and done such a brilliant job for the side that he was in, due to, he was always committed, so don't take it the wrong way. But due to the fact that he was given a job to get himself invested again, you know, whereas at one stage he was actually going to be cutting against the grain. So the idea is to be positive and to have everybody on the one track. So from the bowls club itself, from the coach, from the players to be committed enough to be on the one track, and then to introduce your culture from there, so that everybody is working together. It's a friendly environment where everybody's happy with what's going on. If there's a little bit of bickering going on, then you need to sort of like get that back on track and get everything straightened out. But everything is, the best way to have a good club culture is to have everything completely open, honest, and transparent. Transparent is the thing.
Yeah.
Honesty is the other thing.
All right, question for you, and I think a lot of people run into this problem anyway.
Yep.
Mainly based around detractors. What do you do if you've got 85, 90% of the people on board, but 10% are in particular roles or are in particular favour of boards or bowls committees or things like that? How do you work around that? Because I know a lot of people struggle. Yep. Oh yeah, have a big sip before you get into this topic.
I'll just take a sip on this one because it's a little bit close to my heart.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying a word of that.
I think this, right? This is how I look at things. If you want a club to survive and you want a club to move forward and you want a club to get up to date and to be in the future, the whole club has to invest in that. And this starts from the board of management right down to the person working behind the bar. The whole club has to invest in that. If the club isn't willing to invest in that, and the whole club isn't willing to commit and invest in that, then you don't stand a chance of it happening. So it has to be a thing that works, like I was saying before, from the club to the coach to the players. If everybody's not invested, if the players aren't invested, it's not going to work. If the club's not invested, it's not going to work. If the coach isn't invested, it's not going to work. So all three of them have got to be invested in the one common goal. The same as when we go out and play pennant and we're all invested in the big board and we've all invested in the one common goal. The same thing. Now you'll have your little prima donnas. You'll have your people who don't want to do, I'm above that. I don't need to go out and do that drill.
Oh, this is the way it's been done for years, and I've been on the
in a different way.
Yeah. I've been on this committee for years. Yeah, blah blah blah.
Yeah. I've played free to Fred or free to James or whatever may be the case all my life, or I've skipped in that top side. You've really just got to be in a situation where you're willing to invest in the club. Yeah. And if you're not willing to invest in the club, then and to move that club forward, this is the whole thing. Like I feel I left the club I was at last year in a better position, both how they performed last year and mentally than what they were in when I got there. And to me, that's what my job was, and I feel that I've done that job really well. And whatever else happened in amongst it, it doesn't matter. No. I'm super happy with how everything panned out for the year, and how everything sort of happened, and how the mindset of people have changed a bit. And to me, that's what matters, because otherwise you get a mindset, and it's all about mindset. If the mindset's not right, a closed mind can only see like this. An open mind has a vision to see outside of that, and to accept new things and to accept new challenges. And that's what some clubs are up against, the fact that they need to broaden their horizons and open their minds a little bit in order to get up with the times, because I think I said earlier, if you there's two choices for bowls clubs. They either move up with the times, or they drift into the past where they belong.
Yeah, and look, I think that's a decent message for a lot of clubs. They may not like that message, but I think it is. Well, it is, but that's,
and it's not meant to offend either. It's an honest message. Yeah.
No, because I could name probably a handful of clubs that I know.
Yeah, quite a few
that are not willing to do so, and I sit back and say, hell, I hope you're around in 5 years because
Yeah.
you keep going this way, there's not going to be a lot left.
Yeah, how can there be a fear in success? How can there be a fear in growing your club? How can there be like I'm passionate about what I do. The whole reason I went back into coaching was to give something back to the game that's given me so much joy and fun. I didn't do it for any other reason. I didn't do it for personal accolade.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't do it for the money. So when you look at it, there's so many people out there that are passionate and love the game, right? And for clubs to sit back sometimes and say, no, we just do this particular way and we're not open to change. We're not open. And I'm not saying any particular clubs. I'm saying in general.
Yeah.
We do this this way because that's how we've always done it. Well, we've got to get to the stage where these clubs, if they want to survive, they need to think outside the square. They need to think of ways to want players to come to that club, for particular reasons. They need to think of ways that they're going to advance their sides into better grades. They need to be open-minded enough to realise that if they stagnate, you either sink or swim. And now, in particular, over these next 5 to 10 years is the most critical and most important time, and I can't state that enough. For smaller clubs to really get out there and want to swim, because if you don't swim, you're going to sink. And I don't want to see any clubs go down that road. I don't want to see clubs dwindle down to two sides, one side, and closed doors. I want to see clubs survive. This is what I do for my enjoyment. This is what Matt does for his enjoyment. This is what we all do. Anybody who's watching this does this because they love the game and they enjoy it. Like I'm so dedicated to this game. Jimmy Whitehead was in Bowls Vic. I've grown a beard in appreciation for Jimmy, and now it's like Clarke Whitebeard. Right? That's how dedicated I am.
Yeah. And look, I will make a point with this.
No disrespect him.
No. I will make a point with this whole survival of clubs.
Yeah.
And again, it's something I'm going to try and get somebody on this show. I'm not going to say names yet in case I don't get that person.
No, that's okay.
But it's one thing I think, and I'm going to be a big advocate of this. I think clubs need to start thinking in two ways. The first way is bowls, success on the bowls green itself.
Yep.
And success breeds success.
100%.
But also, clubs need to start looking at their clubs as a business. It is now turned into a business. It's no longer a bowls club that survives wholly and solely on members paying their memberships. Not anymore. You are now running a business, and especially council-owned clubs. If you are not doing well as a business/club, the council is sitting there waiting because you are sitting on
money in land.
$5 million worth of land, $10 million worth of land, and a council's going to sit back and go, we're no longer going to watch you fail. That's $10 million worth of land cost price. We could sell it for 20 mil. Thank you very much.
That's right. You go down and merge with such and such or whatever may be the case. But, any business, right? Any business, this is the thing, any business should reinvest every 5 years, right? Probably 10% of a year's income into their business to reinvent it.
Yep.
Right. Any business and anybody in business should tell you that. So when you're looking at reinventing clubs and you're looking at rebuilding clubs, which is what's needed for clubs that are small, clubs that are sort of like from those 3-4 sides, minimum, 3 or 4 sides down, right? The larger clubs is not quite as hard, but they're smart enough to reinvent. So those smaller clubs, they really need to reinvest in their club, and they really need to sort of reinvent their club, and they really need to grow their club in order to survive.
Yep.
Because if you dwindle down to those 2-3 sides, when land values are going up, the council's going to look at ways for pushing people out and saying, well, there's not enough members to support all this land and all this stuff that's going on. Perhaps if we, and this is a thing that'll probably happen quite a lot later, you'll get your two sides, your two clubs and form a stronger club and sort of, sell off land and all that sort of stuff to develop a greater club. That's something that's going to happen. But if you don't want to be that club, then reinvest in your own business, for God's sake, in your own club, for God's sake. If you want to survive, that's what you need to do. Yeah.
Yep. All right, mate. I've got a few questions coming through Facebook. Geez, aren't you popular?
Oh, beautiful.
Mate, you get this.
I can't see them.
I'd forgotten about this Q&A session that I thought I'd hold at the end of it.
That's okay.
Yeah, Johnny, look, we'll get into that in another way. Johnny's saying costs are through the roof, and Johnny, I'll answer that quickly. Look, I understand costs of a bowls club, let's be honest. And especially if you've got grass, it's
run them.
To run. Yeah. And especially if you've got grass. It's you're investing 70 grand a year.
At least, yeah.
So look, Johnny, understand, and that's probably for another day with somebody I'm hoping to get on this show, and I think it's going to be about club survival and what certain people are doing about it.
Yeah, great show.
Andy McDonald said before, another thing that he likes, and he made mention before about he's welcoming new members and stuff during the rah-rah. He said another thing that he likes was written on a notice board with 3 letters, TRY, Team Rink Yourself. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yep.
Little things written up around the place.
Yep. I've been guilty of doing that. Last year we had a situation where, like you were talking about, people not wanting to engage and not wanting to be involved in the team atmosphere, right? So what I done is I wrote up a little thing. Are you coachable? What is coachable? And people that are coachable. Underneath it, what is not coachable, and how can you make yourself a member of the team? So I challenged the members of the side via the whiteboard. So I think that I'm a massive one on whiteboards and that sort of thing. I think that the psychological side of things and the mindset, I call it mind games, on the whiteboard is a massive thing. And I use that a lot. Yeah. So that's a massive thing. You've got to use any object that you've got and any tool that you've got in order to try and reach your players and you're reaching them here. Because at the end of the day, that's where 90% of your bowls is bowled. You've got the mechanical side of bowls where it's bowled with your body, but you also have the mindset side of bowls. How many clubs have got the player? They get out there on the green, practice every time, and they're 6 inches from the jack. They're bloody brilliant. They set the world on fire. Put them out there in a game, and they can't get near it, and they walk around scratching their head and going nuts.
Yep.
That's psychological. That's fixable, right? So those sorts of things are all in there. You've got to use every tool you can. Yeah.
A question from somebody. His name's Jared. I don't know where he's from, what club he's from. He wants your thoughts on moving away from a head coach and having a collective coaching panel. Again, don't know where this Jared bloke comes from. It's
absolutely beautiful. I think a coaching panel is fantastic. I think if you ask me, and now don't take this the wrong way. Don't take it as disrespectful, because it's not how it's meant to sound. Your head coach should be looking after your main sides, the bowlers that have been bowling for a while and can be corrected and taught and fast tracked. And your coaching panel should be looking after some of your new bowlers and bowlers along those things. And I think if you're going to go and see your coach and you want to go and see your coach, you should go and see your coach with what you want fixed. Don't just go and see your coach and say, I'm bowling crap. Say, I don't think I'm doing this right, or I'm having trouble with that. So that your coach can focus on that particular thing and give you an exercise and analysis, and give you an exercise to work on that problem.
Yep.
Not just I'm not bowling well, I'm not doing this, I'm not making long ends, or I feel I'm coming narrow, I feel I'm falling off the mat, or whatever may be the case. You know, we can look at your technique and we can help you with your technique. But if we know what your main problem is, that's a lot better to come to the coach with that.
Yeah. Now, I think this Jared bloke, I think what he's trying to say is there is no head coach. So there's no named head coach, there's nothing. You have a panel of 3 or 4 coaches, and at the start of the year you say, Fred, you're great at helping the newbies out. Charles, mate, you're really good with the rah-rahs and getting the club up and about.
Okay,
What do you think of that concept?
Okay, so I went for, it's no big secret, so I'll put it out there. I went for the interview with Nari this year, Nari Warren, first year in Division 1. They've said to me and spoken to me since and said to me that they're going to work with their own coaches. And I actually spoke to them about creating a coaching panel. If I had went there as head coach, that's what I would have wanted to do. Now, depending upon your circumstance, if you're in a position where, like Nari, where you went to Division 1 and you're really going to need someone to guide the ship and somebody who's strong-minded to keep the new people that have come to the club and the people that are a bit headstrong in the club heading in the right direction. In that case, I think you need a head coach. They've decided that they're going to use a coaching panel, which is, and this is no sour grape, so don't take it the wrong way. I'm not like that. I'm not that way inclined. That to me is probably, I would think that they would be better with a head coach and then to form a panel from that coach. Could you close that from behind? Oh, you're in the dog out. Sorry. Sorry, guys. This is letting the dog out.
No, that's fine, mate.
So a coaching panel in that position where somebody's having their first year in Division 1, I don't think is a favourable thing. I think it would be better with a head coach there. And then to form a coaching panel to work underneath the head coach, which would work fine in most situations.
Yep.
If you've got a situation where you're in a similar grade, not a lot has changed in the club, a coaching panel is still a great idea because you can develop things and you can delegate jobs and you can work out who can do what within that panel. And let's face it, there's not one bowls club out there where there's people that have been coaching for quite a long time, and they love getting those new bowlers out there on the green. They love nothing more than it. They thrive on it.
Yep.
Don't force them out of it. Don't force them out of coaching.
No.
Let them do what they love, right? And most head coaches, really, I don't know. You know, everyone's different, but most head coaches, in my eyes, want to focus on what is fixable with players. What's there with the main core group of players, and to get those players, to get the maximum out of them, to get the greater benefit for the club. You know, that's just my thoughts. Yeah.
All right. Jeff Tiley wants to know what your thoughts are on fly-in, fly-out players and upsetting the dynamics of a club. And look, Jeff, I get the question because I've had discussions about this with a lot of people, especially again somebody I know that played at Brighton, and we know who played at Brighton and would fly in, fly out. And look, especially because fly in, fly out players will generally always skip. You're not bringing in a fly-in.
I'm not smiling and laughing at the question. That's not the case. I'm actually smiling because I've got a little story like I do all the time.
Yeah, that's all right.
I went and played, and it's no secret where I grew up. I grew up in Dallas in Broadmeadows, and I'm very passionate about that. I think we all love it. Doesn't matter where we grow up. So I went and played a year down at Broadmeadows with Tebby and Perko and a few other boys down there, and really loved the fact that I went and played somewhere where I grew up. We had 2 fly-ins in Division 2. We had Ian Miller, Buddha, flying in from South Australia, lovely guy. And we had one of the old players of the club who was working in Western Australia as a fly-in. So 2 fly-ins
Flying in for
2.
WA?
Division 2, right? Did that upset the dynamics of the club? Not at all. No, not at all. Every person that played at the club had full respect for both people, and that's where it boils down to. It boils down to respect. So I don't think it upsets the dynamics of the club, and especially the higher levels, because at the higher levels of the clubs, you got to realise that everybody's out there trying to bowl their full potential and to get that club into the best position it can. If you're on the cusp and you're the unfortunate people that are on the cusp, and you might end up in the second side, get back to basics as to what you really want to do for your club. Okay, because that's what it boils down to. It boils down to if I was playing footy and I had a flying full forward that I could fly in that's going to kick 10 goals a game, bring him on to North Melbourne every week, mate. I'd love that. Yeah, it's all about.
We're not going there with you.
Play. Yeah, we play to win. You know what I mean? So
but I understand.
If we don't play to win, we play social bowls.
Yeah, look, I understand.
Yeah,
I can understand the gripe though. I wouldn't like to be that player on the cusp. And especially, it depends on how far the drop is. Because
very true.
If you've got Div 1 down to Div... if you've got a Div 1 down to Div 3 or a Div 4, and you're this player on the cusp and you play when the fly-in player doesn't play, and then all of a sudden you're down to friggin' Div 3, Div 4 when the fly-in player decides to turn up.
Hey, there's a thumbs down coming up. I've never seen that yet.
Oh, neither have I. What's it? It must.
No, I've seen a thumbs
there we go.
down.
Look.
Now I see a thumbs up. Is that
no way. It's, I don't know. I've got to work out why.
It's probably coming from Facebook.
No. I think it's my Apple. I've got an Apple MacBook Pro, and I think it's probably one of Apple's little funny little tricks.
Yeah. All good. Yeah, but sorry, back to where we were. Yep, thumbs up.
So I can understand the gripe.
Yep,
with
100%.
I can understand that gripe.
Yep.
And I think that's I sort of Jeff's question. I'm guessing is based around that in terms of the dynamics of the team and then a club, because then it flows all the way through. Because the fly-in player, the fly-in player has the week off.
Team culture.
Yeah,
go on. Sorry.
Yes, the fly-in player has the week off. So I'm in the Div 1 side, and Joe Bloggs has been moved up into the Div 3 side, and your next jump down's Div 5.
Yep.
And then Fred Smith turns up for his fly-in game. I'm down into Div 3. Fred Smith's over, or, the other bloke's back down into Div 5. And there's his up, down all friggin' year because the fly-in only wants to play 8 games.
Yep. So then we look at this. Then we look at then we go back to the basic principles. We go back and we revert back to what the basic principles are. What is the club's plan for the year, and what is the situation? So let's say it's first division to third division. So your ultimate plan is, if your side's not going to get into Premier B or whatever may be the case, you're going to keep you're going to keep Division 1, and you want that third division side to come up. So when you're going down to that third division side and you're missing out on your game, you think about what you're doing for your club to give your club the opportunity to get that side up to Division 2. So then you go Division 1 and 2. One way. So it's about building, and building blocks and culture and club culture and doing what's right for the club. Now, sometimes it is hard to cop on the chin, and it's like grand finals. You know what? Every AFL team, every sporting club has a player or players occasionally that miss out, that could have been there and miss out on grand finals.
Oh, yeah.
Quite often, that player will leave the club. But we have to start thinking about the lines of where we want the club to be and what we want to do with the club. And
I
that's,
think it's
part of the planning,
Yep.
and it's part of the planning at the start of the year, then it's something that we all have to buy into. Because if we don't all buy into the plan at the start of the year and invest in the plan at the start of the year, that's when we start to feel it more.
Yep.
Or think of it as a more personal thing, or why is it me, or whatever may be the case. You know what? If it's why is it me, and I'm not saying this disrespectfully, and I'm not saying put down better bowls.
Yeah.
Make it so they can't remove you. Okay, so that's That's what I'm saying. Make it so they can't remove you. Put them bowls in, especially when it comes to the state. They're coming in. That player's coming in the next 2 weeks. I'm putting them bowls in.
Yep.
Do that. Yeah.
Now, Chrissy Johnson, this will be the last question. Chrissy Johnson was asking, how do you boys feel about mandatory training Thursday night for the top 2 sides? Well, I'll quickly answer that. Why the top 2 sides? I mean, if you're going to, you say all sides, but it's a difficult situation because of the age demographic that we've got. You have everywhere from 20s all the way through to 80s. So the mid 60s, 70s, 80-year-olds are going to want to train at 3 o'clock. The younger ones that are full-time, can't get there until 5:30, 6 o'clock. So it's a little bit difficult in terms of getting the whole side there, but I think you can get most of your side there, and you can organise times to work around it. And again, we had a couple of blokes playing this year in the seconds, and then you say, well, hey, come and train with the first. Of course you can. You can't get to the seconds training because they're demographically wanting to train at 3 o'clock. So you say to them, well, come and train with the firsts, or come and train with the younger blokes, most of them in the firsts, at 6 o'clock. But I think Chrissy's sort of saying, how do we feel about making it mandatory to turn up to training, or you're playing in the fourth?
Yeah, well, we can only do the best we can, right? So let's sort of not step back. 18 years in bowls. If you miss your training, or you miss 1 week and then you're playing the next side the week after, you miss your training, you're not eligible for the top side. Let's not be too militant about things. Let's stop all this stuff about missing out on going to people's weddings and all this sort of stuff. Let's get realistic about it. We play a sport, we play it for 14 weeks. Now, and then we play it. This is in most grades, okay? So the Premier play 18, but so whatever. This is in most situations. So let's commit to, we don't have to commit 150% to bowls. We've all got lives. We've all got things that we've got to do. Let's commit to the sport as much as we can. Now, there's going to be times where people can't make it to training for whatever reason. There's going to be times when people can only train at particular times. So let's try and cater to that and build our training a little bit more around that. I think sometimes the bowls world's been a little bit slack with getting to training, right? I think we need to correct that. I agree with that. Yep. I think we need to correct the amount of people at training, but we can't discipline people out of the game. I think that's a bit of an issue with me. I've missed 2 weddings, 2 of my very good friends' weddings. And my wife was actually celebrant at 2 of them. She was marrying them because of bowls. I think that's a bit harsh. I really think, because I committed to it, right? I committed to
I know, but God, you can give yourself, even as coach, I gave myself a week off.
We've got to relax a little bit, but at the same time, we've got to try and work within what we can. So we don't want to overtax people and make them do things. We want to involve them by making them want to be there. That's the key. In my eyes, that's the key.
The other thing is, want to be there. The other thing is, and I think this is a bit of a stickler for some people as well. I saw this more so last year when I was helping our greenskeeper out. Basically became assistant greenskeeper. I was down there 2 or 3 times a week.
Yep.
If you say to people, hey, you've got to turn up on a Thursday afternoon, and again, we've also got to think, and I played in it this year, is that Thursday 7-a-side is becoming very bloody popular. And it will become more popular the more people play it. Mm-hmm. So then, even I was last year, play Thursday morning. Thankfully, it's only a 2-hour game. Get up in the morning, have brekkie, go to the club, play Thursday 7-a-side, go home, have lunch, have a quick bite to eat, back for training at 3 o'clock. Now, of course, I was a coach, so I had to be there from 3 until 7 o'clock when everyone finished. But again, I noticed when I was assistant greenskeeping last year that the amount of people that came down at different times. So one of the blokes I know is a first responder.
Yep.
You know, worked different shifts and everything else, but somehow worked around, hey, I'm playing bowls Saturday, leave me alone. And a lot of people don't see that, or a lot of people within the club don't see these people turning up and training on their own at weird and wonderful hours when nobody's going to see them.
Yeah, 2:30, 3 o'clock. Yeah, that's right. By the
No,
time
9 o'clock in the morning. You know.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, shit, I've got a bit of time before my next shift. I'll get down at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I don't think,
Well, the thing,
in terms of mandatory training, I don't. You can ask. All you can do, I think, is ask.
Want to be there. That's all. Yeah, you just got to make it so that they want to be there. They want to be. They're engaged. They want to be there. Make it interesting for them. Make it challenging. Don't. I played at one club, and I won't mention the club. Okay, I definitely won't mention the club because they'll hate me.
Which one? Which one of the 15?
We're training. We're training. It's not hard to work out. You've only got to knock out 14. We're training at the night was just a Thursday night. Get there and you're doing this 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 and you're waiting 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 and it's like I'm bored shitless here. I'm doing nothing. I'm wasting my time. I may as well have stayed home.
Yep.
If you're going to throw that at your people that are coming to training, then you know what, you deserve to have no one there. But you've got to challenge them. You've got to if you want people to be there, and mandatory training is probably kind of it is and it isn't. You're not going to get everyone there anyway,
and it's going to piss people off.
You're going to punish the people that don't come there. It can't work.
Yeah,
so
it's going to piss people off.
Them. Yeah, in my ideas, it can't work. So you have to challenge them and you have to make it that they want to be there. They want to be part of that commitment. They want to be part of that unit. They want to be part of that side. And if they can't get there, they're actually going to be dirty on it.
Yep.
That's what you want, you know.
Yep.
That's
wonderful.
In my thoughts.
All right, mate. Well, it has been a very good chat. I know a lot of people have, just from the comments on Facebook, a lot of people have enjoyed your input. And your views, mate. It's been a very good one. I didn't think it'd be this good, if you know what I mean. I knew you and I have always gotten along. We hate having a chat. But
Yeah,
again,
you're a good guy, mate. You're a Clarke. You have to be a good guy.
I know, but it's nice to read the feedback and people saying, look, they've really enjoyed, you know, listening to both of us. More so you. I don't know how many people actually enjoyed listening to me. Just ask my other half.
Oh, yeah.
All right, got a couple of quick questions for you, and these are my standard Match Jackson Balls questions.
Yep.
And just real quick answers, Clarke, all right? We don't need 10-minute answers. What keeps you in bowls?
Oh, the passion. Yeah, the people and the passion. The people, the people, I suppose, and the passion. It's the same. Yeah, I love the people.
I think that's the standard answer everyone gives. To be honest, and that's the great thing about this sport, is that people say it's the people, and I'm the same.
Yeah.
Favourite position to play?
That's a tough one. I like skipping, but I don't mind playing 3, and I hate playing 2. I'll just say that. I
don't think anyone likes playing 2. I don't think you could find me a person that says, I love playing 2. 2's awesome.
Some do.
I know they play it, but I don't know many that say they like playing 2, let's be honest. This year, I couldn't care where I play.
Same. 100% the same.
No, I'm literally
committed.
Yeah, I was originally scouted by Croydon to try and play in their Div 1 side, you know, with a good chance of doing so. They've now recruited a lot more than they thought, and I've sat back and said, you know what, I don't give a stuff. I'm going to help win them a Div 3 flag.
Yeah,
and again, like you said before, if you can go from Div 3 up to Div 2, all of a sudden you've got Div 1, Div 2, everyone in Div 1's going to be going, oh, hang on, they're knocking on my doorstep for my spot.
Yeah. But not only that, any recruited players are not going to be so disappointed in playing in Div 2 rather than Div 3. So,
well, that's right.
It's all about building, yeah.
Yep. All right, last question, then we've got to pack this thing up. Most embarrassing moment in bowls?
Oh, God, I've had a
Go
couple.
on, mate. You've been playing long enough to have a doozy, I'm
Can I
sure.
mention one of my mates' most embarrassing moments?
No, mention yours.
No, it's got to be my own.
It's got to be yours. You can't go faking and saying my
All right,
mate
okay,
did
well,
this.
I'll give one. I'll give one on the first game this year, but it was more of one of my greatest failures and one of my great embarrassments.
That's all right. Either or.
Walking back 5 shots down, all the bowls were in a bit of a line. I just bowled my first bowl about probably 750 millimetres past the jack, and we're 5 shots down, and things are getting pretty close on the big board. There's not a lot of ends left, and I'm walking back, set for my shot. Somebody else from the other rink walks over and says to me, Clarke, you've got to get this because we're in big trouble if you miss. I'll turn around and say to him, well, listen, mate, I was just going back to play my shot, so can you just leave me alone and I'll go back and play the shot and I'll be all right. I'll go back and play the shot. They'll go through exactly where the last bowl was, 750 mil behind the jack and drop 5. Well, it was embarrassing, but...
That's when I'd get in the car and leave. I would get in the car and leave.
Oh, well, it is what it is, you know.
I know.
But I played a lot of embarrassing bowls this year because I really didn't have a great year on the green by my own standards. And you know what? That's important too, because by your own standards and the standards you set to yourself, and this is right across the board to everybody out there, the standards you set to yourself are what important and living up to those standards. And sometimes we can't actually live up to our standards, but we've got to be damn close to it, or otherwise we're not bowling well enough to. And that's what I had last year. I didn't bowl well enough to what I wanted and what I would accept for myself. So that's what we challenge. We challenge ourselves to bowl to as high a standard as we can. And that's what the game's about.
No, and that's what most upset me last year was that I was having a blinder. Absolute blinder all year, especially on Tuesdays. I didn't lose a game until after the Christmas break. Or my team didn't lose, my rink didn't lose a game. It wasn't all on me. But then I got a knee injury 4 weeks out, and just it would blow up 5 minutes into a game, bang, and it was like,
Oh, no fun.
And then the whole side just capitulated. And it's kind of that peeved me off because it was like we were knocking on the door of finals.
Yeah.
Luckily, we got into the grand final of the Thursday 7-a-side. But yeah, Tuesdays we sort of missed out badly, lost our 2 finals and straight out. So that was disappointing, but but like you said, we do hold ourselves to high standards. Some people don't. Some people just like to go down and enjoy it. And that's fine.
And that's okay too. For social bowls, that's okay. Yeah.
No, but again,
bowls,
even for, look, and this is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
If you don't allow people to enjoy their bowls,
you've got to enjoy it. You can enjoy it too.
Yeah, you got to enjoy it. And that's first and foremost, because otherwise they're going to walk out the door and there's another one gone.
We said that together.
I know.
First and foremost, we said together, mate.
All right, Clarke. Thank you very much for the chat, mate.
Brother.
Appreciate
Thanks for having us on.
No, mate.
Yep. No. And all the best with the campaign as it all goes forward. And I'm really looking forward to the next episode where you've got somebody on talking about moving the clubs into the future, because that's one thing that I'm super passionate about. And I think is just so critical and important to our sport and to each club.
Yeah,
so thank you very much for your time and inviting me.
Might not be next episode, but I'll see. I've added, here's an interesting one, and I'll try and get them on. I've been in contact with Bowls USA.
Oh, okay, lovely. Yeah, that'd be good.
I flagged them one day, and I thought, oh, cheeky bastard, I'll just flag him. And they came back and said, oh, g'day, Matty, keen as punch to know more about you and jump on. So I reckon that'd be an interesting one. Get somebody from Bowls USA on and find out how they're going about things over there.
Fantastic. And once again, thanks for inviting me to come on. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sorry I'm a bit long-winded with some of my answers. It's we're all different people, and that's just me. I have a way of going through things a little bit more than I need to at times.
From the comments, we all know what you like, mate. Nobody worries about it.
That's it. Yep.
And you were
at least I've been good to Jimmy, and I've gone Clarke Whitebeard in respect for my mate Jimmy Whitehead.
No, wonderful, mate. Well, thank you again. And for everyone else, hopefully I'll get another episode or another live show up in a fortnight. I'm going to try and do them fortnightly, but with financial year end, me having to run the books on the company and then having a grandson, I've been a bit busy, as you can imagine.
Too. I forgot to congratulate you on that.
Thanks, mate. No, I went and saw the little man yesterday. Fantastic. So
Beautiful.
first time grandfather at the age of 49.
Life comes full circle, my friend.
Tell me about it, buddy. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Clarke.
Cheers, guys and girls.
I'll see if that... There we go. That thing come up again.
That's it. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate. See you, mate.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, everybody.
This episode of Match Jackson Balls is proudly brought to you by Hooded Life, your one-stop shop for all your bowling club needs, both on and off the green, in collaboration with Bowlswear Australia. Best service, best products, competitive prices. Go to www.hoodedlife.com.au and get hooded.